morning. This is Vancouver UFO. It's February 19th, and today is a very, very special day. We have our member, Jeff Selver, book launching his book that he's written over the last few years, and he's shared a lot of that book with us, which we've been very, very happy about. So we're really excited to see the results of everything. And I want to congratulate you, Jeff, for doing this great thing that is very difficult to do. A lot of us have half written books, and you actually did it. So yay for you.
Great.
And I really hope that your sales go well. All the information about sales is going to be at the end of the video, right?
Sure. Yeah. In the mid video, I show people where they can get things. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Yeah. And also on the meetup description of this show.
Yeah, so, you got it.
You can start now, Jeff, and thank you very much for coming and sharing this with us.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thanks everybody for being here. I'm honored. It's been a long ride, and a lonely ride nonetheless, and yet I got to share it with Vancouver UFO and every single one of you who've been part of the story with me. So totally eternally grateful. I have a presentation, so we'll be doing a screen share. And can everybody see my screen? Everything's clear?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay. So just bear with me. Okay, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate this. Thank you so much. So I did it. I wrote my book, and it's 411 pages long, 26 contact events with gray aliens, and it's a bit of a wild ride. The story is very interesting. I think it's unique and has things that other contactees don't have. And so you'll get to learn a bit about that today. So first and foremost, thank you. I want to thank my family and my friends, but there are specific people I want to thank as well too. So Darren and Randall are actually work buddies of mine, and some of them, one of those people may be here today. And they, when you've had the story that I've had, and it kind of unravels the way that it did in midlife, most people don't believe it. Believe it or not, they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe that this can happen to someone. And so when you find people who don't just believe you, but accept you and want to know as well too, that they want to kind of understand it. That's what both Darren and Randall were for me. And they were work colleagues, and they were very excited for me. And they were ushering me, keep pushing, keep learning, and wanting me to kind of do more and expand off of it. So they were just the best buddies in this entire process. I was eternally grateful for them. Randall's in the book. I didn't name him in the book, but he's part of the story. Vancouver UFO, Brian and Mimi, I will always remember that day at Waves Coffee. And Bernie, you were there as well too. And I just remember the texting over with Mimi saying, I have these contact events and I need to talk about them. And then Mimi said, your turn's up. You come over and tell your story to us. And you guys listened. And not just that, Brian, you really, you saw it. You kind of saw that this was something unique, and that this was something very real, and it occurred, and you needed to know more, and you want to learn more, and Mimi as well too. And so I'm always eternally grateful. You gave me the place to do every single one of my presentations, and it really built the story. And an important point to this is that every presentation helped me articulate what occurred to me. So going through every contact event the way I did really allowed me to express it and then think about it and articulate what happened, because 26 contact events with gray aliens is a lot to kind of to figure out for yourself. So you were there for me. I appreciate that. And Ian Holling, you brilliant buddy. I've always appreciated you being here. Your voice, your intellect, your intelligence behind the entire field. You work with Linda, and so you have Linda Moulton Howe, and you have a great way of kind of validating my experience. And the fact that you've been here since also day one, since that very first contact event, meant a lot to me. So thank you, everybody. Again, eternally grateful.
You are quite welcome, Jeff, and we thank you for sharing.
I'm gonna cry.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, guys. So the agenda today, another book about aliens, what's going on. I'm going to quickly talk about kind of what I think is going on in the larger picture on planet Earth. Overview of my story, highlights of my story, what the book meant to me, 3 reasons people will probably buy my book, what people are already saying, because I've given the book to people and I've already gotten feedback. There are resources. There'll be my website, YouTube channel, and the meetup. And there are some fascinating things in this book that only came out to me after it was published. And I kind of reflected back thinking, wait a minute, there are some strange patterns in this story. Anyway, we'll go into that. And there'll be a reading. I'll do some small sections of the book, and then there'll be a Q&A at the end, and we can open it up and all converse with each other. So what's going on? A book about aliens again? Come on, what is this, right? So most people in this field, I'm assuming if you're here today, you probably already have this awareness about the Betty and Barney Hill abduction case that occurred in September 19th, 1961. And it really is the stamp, right? It's the first official contact event for humans in this way, right? This idea that aliens can even do this, that this could even happen to a people, right? That was the first official account of an alien abduction or alien contact event. So it introduced the idea of alien contact to the public. And it's important to note that during the contact event, the extraterrestrials themselves didn't do a lot of things that they tend to do in other contact events. They didn't float. They didn't walk through walls. Right? The beings literally physically get out of the craft and take the humans and then they literally drag them to the craft. There was telepathy, but it was not emphasized by Betty until she was, asked deeper questions about it. And they introduced concepts of extraterrestrial interest in human reproduction. Then the next real stamp is the Betty and Dreesen case, which happened in 1967, January 25th. The extraterrestrials appear to float. It became kind of the confirming stamp of the behavior of the aliens. They walked through walls. They communicate in telepathy, but the beings also read thoughts and communicate through images in the mind. They indicate they have a personal spirituality. They continue concepts of extraterrestrial interest in human reproduction. Now, what I'm doing here is very overview and very linear. And of course, this is not a linear process for humans in the books in the field, but I'm really trying to simplify it to make a point. So just bear with me. So then you have the Whitley Strieber abduction case that occurred in December 1985, December 26, 1985. The extraterrestrials appear to float. The beings communicate through images in the mind. There's concern for worldwide destruction, continued concepts of extraterrestrial interest in human reproduction, and the aliens chose Whitley Strieber to communicate his personal experience through a book. Then you get this expansion really starting to occur, the Jim Sparks abduction cases. Then you have ideas of prolonged lifetime contact, not just a single contact event, not just a craft floating and taking a human and doing some experiment with them, but then you get prolonged lifetime contact, interacting with multiple species. Ideas that extraterrestrials can manipulate time, continued concern for worldwide destruction, continued concepts of extraterrestrial interest in human reproduction. And the aliens chose him to communicate his personal experience through a book. Again, I'm simplifying. So please, if anyone's read these books and felt like I was missing something, I'm just trying to simplify and move the story on. So Susie Hansen's contact events. Ideas that lifetime contact is initiated before birth. Introduce ideas of extraterrestrial plans to assist planet Earth, that there's this overarching agenda that the aliens have about spirits, literally spirits going into bodies, and how they are trying to help initiate some kind of change on the planet Earth. Introduce ideas of the dual soul, that there's this very intimate and personal aspect that is psychological for most contactees. Extraterrestrials continue to display floating, walking through walls, telepathic communication through imagery. Continued concern for worldwide destruction, and the aliens chose her to communicate her personal experience through a book. Now, I personally don't put my book on the caliber of everybody else's, but maybe it's there, but I can't think that way about it. I just trying to make a picture of a linear track of what I believe is going on here. So with my stuff, the idea, there's an expansion of ideas that the Greys are in the afterlife. Continued ideas that agreements with extraterrestrials may originate in the afterlife, that the Greys can see life outlines or life plans. So in that case, they're able to see the future, that they involved themselves in ancient human biological development, that they previously seeded the planet in an ancient era and those genetics are within the population, that they are in communication with the government, that they are motivated by concern for worldwide destruction, and that their interest in human reproduction is to create a new species to put on the planet. They chose me to communicate my personal experience through a book. So what's going on here is an evolution of information governed by the extraterrestrials about subjects and concepts that are beyond human comprehension. All you have to do is look at my stuff or even Susie Hansen's or Jim Sparks, and that is not the Betty and Barney Hill story, right? You got this clear evolution of information that is overwhelming had it been introduced in 1962, when the Betty and Barney Hill case occurred. So they are clearly introducing information and concepts for the public. And I don't think this ends with me. Of course it wouldn't. So there's more going on here. There's more that they didn't release to me. And you can only expect there to be more information and more information to be divulged in this way, I guess, until there's some type of official and true disclosure. But it seems this is the way the beings are doing things until that happens. So the overview of my story, 26 contact events from 1993 to 2017, told in amazing detail. How I got that detail, by the way, has been laid out in one of my videos online on my website. And then in the description of the book, I kind of lay out a little bit how that occurs. And of course, the book has that detail, how I got the level of detail about the memories. So in part one, teenage years is 7 contact events from 1993 to 1997. It's a build up to the rising, which was this genetic activation that the beings did with me, this experience that I had, and it's documented in the book, and it was a consciousness raising event, and it was very intense. And this portion of the story is told using a journal. So I don't just go by memory. I actually had a journal that I wrote out the experience. And then I use that journal in my book to kind of cross show how it's obvious to me what occurred and kind of tell the story through the journal. Part 2 was the traveling years. So the genetic activation initiated a traveling, and I traveled for 2.5 years. And it really is into the wild traveling adventure while having contact events. It is, if anybody here has seen, the movie about Chris McCandless, who ends up in Alaska, he dies there, but he's this kind of adventurer, right? He kind of abandons society, feels he needs to find some kind of spirit connection, though he doesn't really frame it that way, but he's got this kind of wanderlust about himself. And that's what happened here. I had a genetic activation that kind of, created this wanderlust, and the beings were behind it all. And I didn't know that when it was occurring. And so it's this kind of mystery that kind of plays on my brain, and yet then the contact events kind of keep happening while it's all occurring. And it's a very fascinating take on alien contact and the way it kind of occurs. Anyway, the story for me is even very fascinating to kind of reflect on it. It includes a beautiful love story about how I met my wife. And so at the end of that traveling years, I met my wife, who's currently still with me. And part 3, adult years, 3 contact events, 2008 to 2017. In 2016, the contact event I had at that time is where the elder, the main gray alien that I deal with, she tells me to write a book. We're going to open up your memories, and when you get them, write them out into a book and tell the world we are coming, and there will be a new city. And they basically, the we're coming is really the hybrids, and they kind of give pieces of this stuff. They build up to it gently and slowly, where I eventually see hybrid babies. Then there's conversations about those hybrid babies. And then it really kind of ends with a ta-da, almost hurrah, we're coming, and you need to tell people. And so that's what the kind of premise of the story is this kind of build up, and that leads to this kind of ultimate message that they plan to put themselves on planet Earth. So the highlights: gray aliens are in the afterlife realm. My story doesn't make sense if you think any portion of my story makes sense. You're like, well, that probably happened to this guy. Well, this is the connecting feature. They're there. They're able to. Humans don't have access to this realm, yet they seem to, in their corporal form, be able to either phase and move into that space and then communicate with beings or the higher self and then come out of it. And that's clearly what happens in my contact event, where I'm showing those details, and then it does kind of prove itself to me that that is exactly what happens. And that's how my contact events kind of roll out. They can see future events. Again, my stuff doesn't make sense if they can't do that. So it's clear to me that these two pieces, I prove these things to myself, and that is what my story is. The plan for the hybrids is to put them on Earth. That is the signature piece of my story. The human gray alien hybrids are coming to planet Earth. That they have already communicated or are communicating with some form of human leadership as relayed by them. I have 3 contact events that really display that they have already been in communication with government. And part of really what's going on is because that communication had results, because things were said in those communications, agreements were made, and then the Gray said, this is the way we're going to do it then. And then that's kind of what moves forward. But it's all relayed from human communication on leadership levels. And I do some connecting of pieces in the book as well too, on what I think probably occurred here. The picture they create of their involvement with Earth best explains what is witnessed in government behavior, that the beings are highly benevolent, not even just good guys, but like levels of consciousness that are beyond what humans understand. We're dealing with beings who are so advanced in consciousness, it's dimensional by nature. But there is a perceived threat by the level of government. It's because the beings do plan to put themselves here. They do plan to merge with our society. And that would be a threat to any level of government. That would come off as terrifying to people. And that's what clearly is. I do have an essay on my website where I make it kind of obvious that this is clearly what's going on. There's a push for a benevolent some group of people. Harry Reid himself, the senator, is on word saying we believe that they're benevolent. Whoever's driving the crafts are benevolent. Yet there is also a perceived threat where there's an unwillingness to release information based on the idea that it's actually possibly terrifying to some portion of to humans, right, to learn this stuff. And so this kind of picture that the beings gave me in the book, I think best explains the actual what we're witnessing when it comes to disclosure and government behavior. The overarching connecting theme of my story is one about human attainment or human enlightenment. Not to say that I'm enlightened. I don't talk like that. That's not what's going on here. But I did have these high consciousness experiences, and then I was able to utilize them at certain periods of my life. So they give me this white room experience, which is this consciousness room of theirs. They then give me the rising, which is the genetic activation, which is I demonstrate how it's obviously linked to the white room experience that I had. And then I end up with a Vedic teacher. I end up kind of with a Vedic master who I understand and learn enlightenment from, at least the concepts of it. And I clearly see a connecting picture, and the beings knew that. They knew that when they got together with me. So to me, it is obvious my story is meant to be a bridge for translation of gray alien spirituality to human spirituality. The concepts of human enlightenment are just the beginning of understanding these beings and their technology. This stuff that they are is scales up. It is beyond what we know, and yet when you just step into the concept of human enlightenment, you then begin to understand these beings. But again, it is just the beginning of what they are all about. And I grow in relatable, grounded, and practical ways. I try to bring some of the language down. I don't try to come off as someone important that this happened to, because some of it is definitely painful. So, and I do relate that in the book. And I also fumble and I screw up in the book. The story, I do fumble and screw up. So, and then that becomes an interaction I have with the beings. And I kind of blame them at one point. And so I kind of just try to bring it all down and talk in very grounded and relatable and practical ways. And that does seem to come off in the book. And I've been told that people can listen to that. So what does the book mean to me? The story takes place in a period of my life that had lots of mysterious, profound events. This traveling period was, I saw UFOs, I saw lights in the sky, I had paranormal events, and I had no idea I was having alien contact. And so it was so personal what happened to me, it couldn't be understood when I shared it with people. And that really lingered with me for 2 decades. And so no one understood a genetic activation. You could probably imagine how it's its own trauma that you have these profound experiences and then people can't understand them and they kind of like throw it off. They're like, well, that's probably not what you thought it was. And that's really what I got for many years. And for it to have some kind of resolution really means a lot to me, and it's very powerful. And that drove the writing of the book, and it's kind of driving it as that motivation is driving the presentation of the book as well. Towards the end of my story, seemingly separate parts of my life, past life awareness, paranormal events, UFO sightings, and the rising all came together. And I know that's the case for other contactees. And it's very, you just feel nuts. You feel crazy when past life awareness is really extreme. Paranormal events are really extreme. You're seeing UFOs at your window. And then you had this kind of weird experience in the old days, and you can't put it all together. And then all of a sudden it kind of has one core root, which is you had alien contact. So it means the world when it all kind of comes together. I also gained profound awareness that I'm still understanding. I'm still integrating, I guess is the best word to say it, such as the afterlife vision. You don't see your death and your higher self without it affecting the rest of your life. So I will be forever grateful that the beings did that, and so it is just a part of me. That awareness is a part of me, and so I'll hopefully do many presentations about that awareness and how it can help other people or share that wisdom with other people. The steps that created the rising, those first 7 contact events, were also very profound in what the beings did. They really understand human attainment or human enlightenment. And so the different things that they did with me all kind of had impacts that now I can look back and kind of analyze and study what they did with me, and how to kind of turn that into something for all humans to kind of use. They also gave me a download that's in the back of the book. It's called The Mystic Book. And it's also profound, and I've never done any presentations on it. So there's just so much to do and so much to discover here still. And all of it allows me to apply and talk about profound concepts of consciousness. So 3 reasons people will buy my book. A study of gray alien behavior, their technology, and relationship to other alien species. I actually am going to, I have a written part here that I think is just kind of well said, so I'm going to read that. So one, I hope, is an almost scientific study of the gray alien species. This is an interesting character and behavior study of a species that we know so little about. And I'd like to think my book offers a perspective of behaviors of their species that are not covered in other contact events, or at least not as in depth, such as going to a gray alien home of residence. That's the elder sitting on her couch. And I frustrate a gray alien at one point, and then the subsequent behaviors that follow it are very unique and speak a bit about how the grays kind of handle themselves. I don't think it was anger, but I'm pretty certain I frustrated her. They also had affection for me. They, at one point, part of the story is the blending of that I have alien genetics, and on their side, they kind of had affection at times. And so that was really fascinating to see too, where a lot of it was telepathic affection. Simultaneously, amongst all of that, they kept control of the entire process in a barrier that didn't affect my other life. So they really knew how to separate things, and yet they kind of exposed me to a lot of their kind of strange behaviors and how they handle humans. I just thought the entire thing was very fascinating. And the technology, again, is just so, I label most of it just quantum, because it's just kind of impossible to understand. And quantum will bring the ideas of consciousness into technology. And that's really where this seems to go, is that this is consciousness technology. The other reason that people will buy the book is that people want these experiences for themselves. Everybody wants magic in their lives. We all want miracles, for the universe to align for us, to experience a sense of reliance, whether it's synchronicities, visioning and manifesting thoughts, having an experience of energy, connecting with aliens, feeling God, spirituality, religion, or past life awareness. I think that we all intuitively know that the human is more grander than our everyday experience of self. So we seek mediums to experience that grandness. We seek it outside of ourselves, but what we are actually looking for is within, because what people are looking for is themselves. Yet what we actually are is something very difficult to understand and grasp with our minds, with our brains. And in the end, aliens won't replace that feeling within us. People kind of try to gravitate towards connecting with aliens, and it won't replace that feeling within us. It's an expansion of self that we're all looking for. So I hope that the experiences in my book that led up to the rising and the subsequent experience of the rising help the reader understand who and what they are, that we are not the body, that we live on in other forms, that we have a higher self, that we are God, that awareness, that what generates your awareness is God. It's the core energy of God, and you are that. And that the purpose of life is to live this and embody this. But also the beings provided me a download I call the Mystic Book at the end of the book, which I talked about. And it seems that it's a manual of high spirituality designed to help humans with these ideas, to internalize them, to experience a grander version of oneself. The third reason that people will want to buy my book is, what are they doing here? Why are they in the shadows and not coming out? Why isn't there disclosure already? Why are they building hybrids? And of course, they give me a picture. They are putting hybrids on the planet. But as always, the picture is a lot larger than we can understand. And whatever interactions happened in the 50s, I don't know what this is, but this is how the information they relayed to me was stuff that happened in the 50s. I personally single out an Eisenhower meeting, but they do kind of emphasize something happened in the 50s, was really the last opportunity. And it's this perspective from them where they're saying, we were trying over centuries and this was the last time. And they kind of give me information that they'd been here interacting with, they say, the Nazis, and they had some kind of connection at that point. And then every time they're trying to curb humanity. And that's what they, and the, in my essay that's on my website, I do divulge that that's clear the beings were saying, you know, planetary destruction is here. It's around the corner for you if you don't change your ways. And that was the dialogue that appeared to happen in the Eisenhower meeting. So it really seems to be the crux of it, that was the kind of last moment. And then they decided to kind of make changes and do what they decided to do, which I guess is the hybrid program. So they also talk about the execution of that plan. And I don't know what some of this stuff is, right? I don't know if this is symbolic, because when we start talking about the future, I really try not to come off like I'm prophesizing. I don't even really know personally, right? Like, they tell me these things and I just have to get that information out to you, the reader or the public, and you can make your own choice if it's real or not, and what you think of it. I don't even know if it's just symbolic, and maybe that is what it is, and you have to make up your own mind. But they told me this. They told me to write a book, and then that seems very important, that people need to know this information. So what are people saying about my book? Intriguing and remarkable. The book is a page turner. It clearly, when you get into it, it really does draw you in. It's profound, as I mentioned. As Bernie was reading the first chapter is a brain blower. They give me the afterlife vision at the age of 16, and can you imagine doing that happening to you? There are twists in the story and things you don't expect, and that is true. And so it draws you into the adventure. It's conversational. I'm not stuffy, right? I try to bring it all down. That's how I kind of frame the book, and I kind of make it conversational in that way. And so I talk in a relaxed manner. I have these large concepts, but I try to bring them down in relatable ways. And I bring in the science, but I'm not stuffy about it. So, and I have a master's degree, so I have an ability to do my research and kind of articulate it. But at the same time, I want to make sure I'm making everything relatable for people. So there are resources that you can follow me. So please check out my website. I have, this is one spot where you can buy the book. You can buy the book directly on the webpage, and the write-up for the book is here. I have a kind of a coming out video for those who are in great disbelief that this could happen to someone. And I would, as I say, I am the first to agree that that is very, it seems very unbelievable. And so on this same, I have my videos of my UFO videos that I've filmed here. And I also have my polygraph on this webpage. So for those who are in great doubt, you can check out the polygraph. I have all the details here. My whole point was to be as transparent as possible, and to be straight and transparent. And then a detail about the actual person who did the polygraph and the questions that were asked. And my own, I talked a little bit about my ability to get the memories out and how they were, in extra detail. And my own regressionist actually was amazed at some of this ability that I had to know when my mind was making something up versus when I knew I was looking at authentic memory. And so she kind of, offered to write a reference letter, and I took her up on that. So that was really smart. The essays are one of the things I'm most proud of. So I have here an essay on the experience of waking up to memories, but also, experience of waking up to obscured memories, but also how a little bit about what I think is going on, though I don't actually really still understand how the brain was being obscured, the memories. But I do offer some theories about electromagnetic fields, and then combined with the ability for the beings to do something psychically, there's proof of that. And anyway, there's interesting research here I find very fascinating. I'm happy I put together. Can humans have gray alien DNA is probably one of my favorite essays I've written. And I draw from, so in my book, I actually mention crop circles very briefly, especially in this era, right? When now, I don't know if anybody noticed, but Chris Mellon, who works with Tom DeLonge, and he was the deputy assistant to the DOJ, the head of the FBI and CIA. And he basically said on a talk show just last 2 Saturdays ago that, these Pentagon videos that we're witnessing, we can rule out that it's China and Russia because the patterns best display aliens. Right. So like disclosure is slowly dripping, and the media never picked up on that. And yet it was a morning talk show that he said this, and very fascinating. And so since we have the people kind of saying and confirming for us that aliens were always basically here, we should be looking at the things that they did that left definitive symbols of messages that they left, right? So some of the crop circles are so complex that there's no way humans were involved with them. And so I actually focus on the Arecibo reply. And so anyway, I have the detail about what that is here. I don't want to go into it too much, but what's fascinating is it's a crop circle in which gray aliens left DNA information about them. Now, what I found really fun is when I put together that this matched some of my experience with the gray aliens and matched what some of the contactees talk about. So there is an argument, right? Are gray aliens robots or are they beings? And one of the arguments for them being robots is, well, if you touch them, apparently their skin is cold. Well, if you were a silicone species, that actually would make sense because silicone is bonded with carbon at lower temperatures than on Earth. So that would make sense for a species to be kind of cold or feel cold to the touch. And I've also mentioned in previous Q&As that the gray alien eyes look like TV screens. Well, TV screens are carbon silicone bonds. So if you were a silicone species, then your eyes would look like TV screens. It would be as reflective and mechanical looking as TV screens. So anyway, I thought that was great connections that I put together here, all on this kind of this essay here where I explain, can humans have gray alien DNA? And also I kind of break down the possible Eisenhower meeting with gray aliens. These essays were meant to be in the appendix of the book, but it would have just been too large. So I had to put them somewhere. So they were meant to be here and kind of draw in the interest to the website so people can keep up with me. I do have events listed here as well too. So these are presentations I plan to do, and kind of we already talked with Mimi, but we'll be moving forward with these. So yeah, you can keep up with things. You can contact me. I also have videos of UFOs here. I also have a YouTube channel, so please, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Not too much is going on here, but I do plan to, do some side videos. Again, everything to flesh out the book. So please, you can always subscribe to the YouTube channel. And yeah, let's see here. Okay, we're coming up to close to the end. Oops, I don't want that. So at the end of my story, I am told by the elder to turn my contact events into a book. And in this book, to tell the world that they are coming and that there will be a new city. Implying the contact events were given to me in a way in which they knew would later be told to the public. This would explain why there are mysterious patterns throughout the book. So there is a weird symbol of 2 throughout my entire book. Again, it just feels like there's layers of information here. Some of this was very condensed and compact, and it seems like there's things with which humans can kind of think about and delve into a lot larger than just a simple read through of the book. So I'm going to list everything I could think of where there was a symbol of 2 in the story, and just to show that there's no way I could make this stuff up. The level of detail and scale of detail going on here is unprecedented. And so it starts with, I learn about the Federation twice. I have 2 separate contact events in which they talk to me about the Federation of Planets. I went to the space base twice, a base out in space. The same base though, I went to 2 condos on Venus. I had 2 interactions with humanoid aliens, all in separate contact events. Drove the craft twice. Dealt with the twins, who were 2 aliens that looked exactly the same, and they were called the twins. Saw a holographic planet imparting information about the future twice. There were 2 dead humans on the medical beds in one of my contact events. 2 up-close interactions with the leader, who basically is the mantis, but I call the leader. 2 experiences with the dark craft. So I have 2 experiences with sometimes the same craft. So it's obviously they bring the same craft and I kind of go back into it and have a separate contact event, though it's with the same craft. Very interesting. I'm in 2 cockpits completely blacked out. I don't even know what some of these symbols mean. So I go into a cockpit and the entire cockpit is blacked out. The window, all the console, the floor, the chair, everything's black. Went to the white room twice. So this consciousness space, I go to that room twice. The holographic timeline was an outline of 2 periods of my life that they wanted to work with me. I saw this holographic timeline twice. Contact events were symbolized as globes. And so in one contact event, I see the globe up close, and another, I see the globe up close. I have 2 intense biological interactions. I was in 2 different biological laboratories with stages. So that was a weird symbol. I don't know what that means. So forget my book. I have 2 UFO sightings that I filmed. And in both cases, they filmed 2 UFOs. I saw 2 of their books that have holographic images protruding out of the pages. 2 contact events with the same group of humans. I will interact with humans on board craft and I'll mix with them twice. Or I saw them twice. Wore the blue coveralls twice. I wear clothing on board a craft, and it happens twice. I saw the group of elders twice, these group of aliens twice. Saw my name in their script twice. Saw the human gray hybrid babies twice. Saw my thoughts on a computer twice. The elder came in human form twice. Only one of them is mentioned in the book, but she came twice to me in human form. The elder came in paranormal form using angel hair twice. That is not mentioned in the book at all. Again, this is just part of my personal experience. And then the different ways they obscured my memory happened twice. So starting at one place in nature and then ending at another place in nature, not knowing that the contact event occurred. And yet I don't put together that I had a contact event. That happens twice. In one case, I'm walking to a destination. They take me, then they turn me around and put me back, and I'm walking back without knowing I didn't go to the destination. That happens twice. I'm taken from outside an apartment, put back in the apartment, and I'm not aware that I had no knowledge of the contact event. That happens twice. So the symbols of 2, I'm not even explaining this. I don't even really have the answer. I mentioned this to a shamanic friend of mine, and he said, well, that makes sense because that's actually a shamanic practice that you teach once for the conscious mind and you teach once for the subconscious mind. And so that would make sense if they wanted me to be able to talk about things that they would give me 2 of them. So that could be it. The other symbol does seem to be, at least I think, I don't really know, us humans and them, gray aliens, us and them, right? And they're kind of saying like you and us, right? Like at least I think, I don't really know. So, and this didn't even come to me until the book was basically ready to be published. And I kind of was like putting it all together, how all the 2s, all the symbols of 2 in the story. And not just that, but there's also symbols of 3. So I have mind, body, spirit symbols in different spots throughout the story as well too. So, and this is, again, because I look at it like they did this to me. This happened to me and I just wrote it out. And so I don't think of myself as involved in this one in any way, except for as a messenger. And then to kind of get it out and realize that it had these kind of deeper symbols I wasn't aware of is still kind of showing me that this was something very profound. So, oh yeah, that's it. So I was going to get Ian to speak here. I wanted Ian, who has been following my story since day one, and Ian, can you hear me? I don't know if you've been listening. I'd love to have you speak now, Ian.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Jeff. That was a fantastic presentation and a summary of your book, and you've gone through it. But to do it justice, I urge everyone to look back at the videos that Jeff has posted, where he breaks all of these down, and you can get the full picture to bookend the book when you get the book. Here we go then. Some time ago, about 18 months, I was doing the late night research into the ET presence when I found myself on a platform I'd never used before, and I discovered a small UFO research community I'd never heard of before. I could see that here was a man bringing forward a story he could scarcely believe himself, that it was somehow compelled and energized to bring a story forward. But yet it suddenly occurred to me that he was speaking a truth, and a truth that he was still discovering for himself. During our initial discussions, I identified and immediately recognized several aspects of Jeff's experience which supported my own research and my belief that events and interactions, although often initiated by the non-humans with a controlling factor, are reliant upon permissions sought and agreements made in order to proceed. There seems to be some universal law, possibly literally a universal law, that should be followed. The other beings that do not follow this universal law of permissions and agreements create the often perceived as negative experiences of the witnesses involved. Many events in Jeff's life seem to have been orchestrated by agreements with these non-humans, and his huge amount of detail and recall of some 26 interactions and abduction events puts him in the highest category of UFO contactees. Jeff's experiences and clear messages from the ETs he is in contact with offer us a huge insight into the bigger picture, the complete non-human agenda, and how it all fits together with the galactic federation of different beings who are working together to help humanity's survival and evolution, as well as the integration with their own kin, and how they are acting on this path due to something that happened or opportunities not taken in the 1950s or earlier time frame. Now, I'm going to go back to that agreement because that was a fundamental truth, as far as I could see, that validated Jeff's experience. Jeff says she continued to explain our agreement. Our exchange won't be for nothing. What we will give you, we will provide you now, and we will slowly open you to it over time. We've been working on this plan for some time, and we know you won't regret it. Our work with you will benefit our understanding of humankind. And Jeff asked if there's anything he should do. They said, you need to keep your heart and mind open to learn new things. He asked, can you tell me who you are? And they introduced themselves, or the elder, let's say specifically, as we are humanity's agents of change. I think one of the most important aspects of the content from Jeff's experience is the message and mission given to him as a willing participant in the non-human experiment with the spirituality growth of humanity and Homo sapiens sapiens. He was told this next evolutionary phase will be as great as the leap from ape to man. And when he asks who they are, he is told that we are the human we are the agents of change. Now, going forwards from that, Jeff says that all the elder told him was that humans included the fact that humans are in danger. And it's time to awake, and it was time in 2016 to awaken his memories of his lifelong contact events. He was told to write a book that needed to include the Mystic Book. And it was a data dump or a download of information that's familiar to many of us researching the contact experience. Inside the Mystic Book was a message that would save humanity. And it was also the contact event, I believe, when Jeff saw the city on Earth that was going to be filled with human and grey hybrids. They would remake the land and populate it with spiritually kind and peaceful people. During this time, Jeff had to face uncomfortable and difficult truths. And often he described it to me as approaching them with a heavy heart. But I have to take my hat off to Jeff. He approached it with courage and bravery, and he went on a mission to discover for himself what had really happened. Jeff said he wanted to prove it to himself. He told us up front that he was going to have a lie detector test. He didn't have to do that. He might not have had good results. He might, but he was open to us, and he told us up front this was what was going to happen. He told us he was seeking validation, and he got the validation. I was one of the first persons that Jeff spoke to when he saw and witnessed the orbs over his balcony. I spoke to him almost immediately afterwards, so I can attest to the excitement and validation that Jeff felt in that moment. This book is a story of 3 books. Jeff's book of his own experiences. And it's, in my opinion, it's covered so much detail. Jeff has gone over the ground. He's done the groundwork, he's done the research, he's filled in the gaps. He's had these regression sessions, he's recovered memories, and he's spoken to other witnesses. It's also the story of the Mystic Book, the book that was given to Jeff for humanity's manual. But it's also a book that includes another book, a book that's written in the future, and it's written from a grey perspective. And that is another aspect that I think is very important. I wish Jeff all the best for the future and the success of his book and his ongoing endeavours. And it's a book that goes beyond the normal, traditional contact experience. He's fulfilled the mission. And although this could be the end of Jeff's journey with the book, I don't believe it's the end of the journey for humanity, or perhaps even for Jeff himself. I think it might even be the beginning of a journey that affects all of humanity. So thank you, Jeff, once again, for what you've done. And I really appreciate you including me in your journey. Thank you.
Awesome, Ian.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Ian. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful you've been here, and well said, just such well said, man. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and your insight is just fantastic. Fantastic insight. Thank you, man. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you very much, Jeff. That was really a fantastic presentation.
Should I do a reading, or is it, we've had enough? Maybe, I don't know. People say they do readings at book launches, but I don't know. I feel a little bit tired out. Does anybody want a reading? Do they want to see a sample of it, or?
Oh, sure.
Hey, Shecky, you're waving your hand. Do you want to say something?
Well, I want to say a lot, but I'll say a little at the beginning. First of all, this is our first interaction. I want to say how impressed I was, and I'm not easily impressed. As people who have heard me speak in this venue before know, I bring a lot of resistance to this conversation, and you have gone far beyond the threshold of my resistance. You have, I think, catapulted yourself into the forefront of the UFO conversation and the importance of this conversation to humanity by what I've heard you say today. And to the extent that your website is now blocked on both Google and DuckDuckGo, I know there's a certain degree of accuracy to what I'm saying. While you were speaking, I attempted to access your website and found that both of the both at DuckDuckGo and at Google, I was not able to access it. So that's a big clue to me that
Okay, I'll look
the
into
bad
that.
guys don't want you. What?
I'll look into that. That is
Yes, please do.
yeah, that's
I have many things I like to bring up, but I want to frame my one question that I hope others will address as well as you. To the extent that you have introduced a very positive vision for the future, and I need to learn more before I give you 100% of a write-off, but my intuition and my first impression is extremely favorable to what you've presented here today. I want to ask you how what's going on in Canada and throughout the world with what I call the Davos demon efforts to impose a transhumanist agenda on the world, how that how your book addresses that, and how the positive agenda that you're presenting is different from what I hear and believe they are implementing or attempting to implement.
so yeah, great.
If I might say
Go
something, I think I'd like to just say I'm happy for Jeff to do a reading to complement his introductions and everything, and maybe we could have some questions and answers a little bit later. I'm quite happy for that.
That's great, Ian. Thank you. And Shecky, I'll address
No,
this.
And others may address it as well, but
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I hear you. Awesome. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I wanted to say something, Jeff, and to everybody. When I met Jeff, I had the most negative impression of the Greys. Absolutely negative. I thought they were robots. I thought that they were hurting people. And I was on that tunnel, on that point of view, very, very much. And knowing Jeff over the last 2 years, my views have changed, and I know that there are good gray aliens that are working with humanity, and I got tearing up. I'm sorry, but I believe your story, Jeff. I just came out myself on Facebook, first time ever. I came out of the closet, the alien closet, on Facebook in front of all my friends and people that I've known through work and all of that stuff. It's very hard.
Yeah.
What you've done.
Yeah.
And I wish you so well with it, and I want you to know that it made a lot of difference to a lot of people.
Awesome, Mimi.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
No, you're making me teary-eyed. That's good. That's great, Mimi. Thank you. You're awesome. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting ride, and I appreciate you. And I'm very happy. Thank you. Thank you. And it is challenging, and I commend you. I commend you coming out. I commend any abductee or contactee coming out. And your story has also got a lot of, when we have the contact event, and then we have the subsequent event, the experiences afterwards where we're rejected, then those are our imprints about the contact event. We're imprinted with the rejection that occurred right afterwards. And I know yours was, I want to cry too. I know yours was, and I told my wife, I'm like, oh my God, Mimi's got this crazy story when she was 14. And and I really feel for your kind of the experience you had. And then to, it means a lot to come out. And I really do think that we're the beginning, right? There'll be a time where and very soon where we'll be able to be very comfortable coming out, and it takes people like you and me to do that. So that's great, Mimi. Good job. Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff. I just want to say one more thing, and that is that when I joined Brian in Vancouver UFO years and years ago, I guess it was 6 years ago or something like that. I really believe in this organization, and now Brian has his own, and I'm at the head of this one. But I really believe that one story at a time is the way that disclosure is going to happen. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of you, Jeff, and anybody else, any of our members who have stories. And I'm working on my own story. I'm busy with this, so I'm not working on it all the time. But I think anybody who wants to come forward should, because that is the best way that we are going to have disclosure on this planet, because they're not going to stop lying to us, you know. But we know, the people who've had the experience absolutely know that it's real and it's happening. So anyway, thank you.
Awesome.
Namaste.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, let's do a reading. I would that's great, Ian. Thanks for pushing that. And so I'll bring back the screen share here. Okay. So I thought it would be fun to do the white room. This is the very beginning, and they put me into this consciousness room where I don't do it here. I did it on the video that I had at Vancouver UFO. That this is the same room that Susie Hansen was in her book, The Dual Soul Connection. And I had memories of this before I read about it in her book and kind of put it all together, that this is what it was. It was this kind of consciousness space. And so anyway, this is my from the first chapter 1, the white room. Oh, sorry, one sec. We stopped in front of a small closed door. I was weary now and asked, "What is this?" She said, "You'll see, you'll be all right." After the last experience, I was done with surprises. I didn't want to go in there. She urged me to see what was on the other side of the door. She connected eyes with me and said, "I'll come with you, we'll go together." I could feel she was excited for me to experience what was behind the door. For her, this was the part of our agreement that I wouldn't regret. The 4 smaller beings from earlier came back and entered the room first. The feeling amongst them changed to anticipation. The elder entered afterwards, and then me. The door opened into an archway that was about 10 feet in length. It looked like glass with shimmering colored light bands moving around against a black background. The light bands of color penetrated my being and made me feel amazing. They seemed to represent butterflies or a feeling of metamorphosis, evolution, or transformation. It felt like outer space, magical mysticism, and strange beauty. It felt like it was prepping me before I went into such a strange place. Or maybe it was telling me what was about to occur. The feeling of mystical gnomes and elves penetrated this archway, possibly the way my mind filtered these beings and their feeling of mysticism. This archway was indeed magical. I walked through the archway into an impossibly massive, white, featureless room. It had no apparent walls, ceiling, or floor. It felt like I was walking on top of empty space, on shimmering air. I didn't understand it. Right away, the space had an effect on me. It seemed like shimmering light was affecting my body. I could see gold and white light bleeding out from my body. When I looked at my hands, they had shimmering lights in them. I'm not certain why, but my diaphragm was reflexing, as if I couldn't grab air, or maybe my body was just in a state of excitement. Otherwise, the room made me feel amazing. I was in absolute shock and awe about my environment. I noticed an illusion. The white space seemed to extend into football field lengths into the distance behind the archway. I had just come in that way, so there was clearly something going on with this room and its perceived dimensions. My attention fell back on the beings who were giving me a moment to absorb what was happening. From where I stood, the 4 smaller beings were a little away in front of me and I had lined up staring at me. The elder stood a little closer to me on my right. I didn't understand my feelings at the time, but in present memory, it was clear a spiritual or sacred event was about to occur, not just for them, but for myself also, and they were aware of it. The elder stepped forward and informed me, "What is about to happen is going to be beyond your comprehension." Then she stepped back. Immediately, the room began to vibrate. Simultaneously, we all began levitating and our bodies began vibrating. Then it quickly felt like the cells of my body were vibrating, and I watched in shock as the molecules in my hands and arms began to bleed bright white light. All the beings in the room, including my awareness, began to dissolve. Then all my cells faded into my awareness, remaining intact. All the energies in my extremities, my arms, my legs, even my head, collapsed into a ball of energy. My awareness and my visual perception all seemed to come from the center part of me that I now was. I was immediately in a state of elation. My consciousness experienced a surge of powerful energy as it was transformed into a ball of light. I remained floating and it felt amazing. I surmised that this was my soul. I could feel instant unity. My singular identity merged with everything, and I could feel the largest and most complete presence of myself as part of my surroundings. I felt unity with the invisible walls of this room, and we all just merged in with each other in this feeling of unity. My consciousness had raised, and I felt like a new me was born. The beings were now whooshing and swooshing around as shimmering bright lights and colorful orbs in joyful childlike play. I saw orbs that were hues of pink, orange, and yellow. I stopped being me and was just like them, a powerful childlike purity of presence with a feeling of unity. We whooshed around together. I could fly to any space in the room with a simple intention of thought. I found this to be so much fun, filled with freedom and full of elation and joy. The feeling was ecstasy, joy, unity, but also play. It was so amazing. There was so much joy. There was a dazzling display of lights penetrating my being. It seemed to come from all the beings in the room. I saw flashing lights of white, blue, and purple. Light and space merged as one. I could feel the light had infinite space yet form. This experience penetrated the core of my heart. Anything hidden was gone. We were all just and simply who we were. No alien, no human. I was no longer anything but a being just like them. My identity was forever changed. So I'm going to move forward to a separate section, just so you can get a piece of the variety that occurs in this story. This is me. So what you just witnessed was, the white room and this consciousness event that occurred, and this room that apparently they have, and they can do this to humans, and do they do this to themselves? So what's next is So in this contact event, this is contact event number 12. And I was, so the rising had already occurred. So the white room, so what they gave me, they were able to, develop it over several years. And it was something that would turn on, that white room experience would turn on when my memories came back. And then it would be integrated slowly and slowly. And then they used it for the genetic activation. And that's really what they did. They used this intense consciousness event, and then they used it for the genetic activation several years later. And then once the genetic activation occurred, that intensity became a part of the 20-year-old I was, and it was part of the genetic rising I had, genetic activation. So now the 12th contact event, I'm about 7 months or 8 months or something after the rising, and now I was struggling with it psychologically. I was actually already traumatized by it, and so this was me. I'd abandoned my life. I was a hobo living out of my car, and I'd gone to Nova Scotia, and I was picking apples there, and I was living on some random field, living out of my car, and I had a contact event in the middle of the day. And so a humanoid takes me into a craft, and he does biological stuff with me. And so the bottom line is, this is where it leaves off. I was being pushed too much by them and was emotional. Once I got my clothes on, I didn't want to leave until my issues were addressed. I began repeatedly telepathically projecting the elder's signature, her image and feel. My request would best be translated as, "Where's the mother? Where's the mother? Where's the mother?" He gave a feeling of like, "Oh, okay." Then he got on some controls, and very quickly the craft ejected upwards. There was fast movement outside the window, and then it was dark outside. I wasn't even fascinated anymore. I was upset. He then pointed at a hallway and said, "Go down there." I didn't hear or feel the craft dock to anything else, but apparently now, if I went down that hallway, I would find the elder. I was now going to see how much sway I had, if I had any power at all in our agreement. Would they hear me? Would they let me negotiate with them? The hallway was small, made for one person, with horizontal light bands on the side. I walked down it emotional, that I had been violated and taken advantage of. But the humanoid didn't follow me, and no one came and met me. So now I was alone in their advanced ships. The immediate realization that I was alone made me feel the trust they had for me. And the feel of the alive ship calmed me down. I talked earlier that the feels like the crafts are alive. So the feel of the alive ship calmed me down. It felt friendly. So there was a conflict in me right away between the friendly vibration of the ship and my emotions. And I heard calming words in my head say, "We are not trying to harm you." I continued to walk down the hallway as it curved. It opened to a large circular auditorium, possibly for presentations or teaching. There were 3 rows of seats that raised higher the further back they went. There was a large open door on the other side of the auditorium, and I could see gray aliens working. There was a pillar of light sparkling in the middle of the room. It felt like it was the intelligence of the ship, and it gave a vibe of, what is he doing here? The elder was walking towards me from the other side of the room. Possibly she was psychically summoned either by the humanoid or the intelligence of the ship. She said, "Hello, Jeff." So she projects this friendliness out. "Hello, Jeff, my friend. How are you doing? What's going on?" So she's aware that I'm here and there's something going on. She projected camaraderie, kindness, and friendliness. I could feel that she was genuinely happy to see me. I blurted out with a raw emotions. "I can't take it anymore." All telepathic, right? "I can't take it anymore. Why can't I know?" I went straight for the main issue. I probably could have taken the biological stuff if I just knew that this was happening to me, right? That the contact events were being obscured was disturbing me when I became aware of them. And so I wanted to merge, and I was traveling. I was a hobo. I thought that was the rest of my life. I had no idea. So I thought I should just know. It would make a lot of sense, and it would help me psychologically. So that's my argument there. She gently said, "Sit down, Jeff," with emphasis and concern. We each took a seat in a row of seats and faced each other. Calming myself down, I said, "Is there any way I can find out? Is there any way I can know? I'm starting to create confusion with what you gave me. I'm resisting it, and it would help me to know." She leaned in very concerned and said, "Jeff, that cannot happen." I said, "But I won't tell anybody. I'll keep it a secret. I promise I'll keep it a secret." She said, "It's impossible. It could never happen." I started breaking down. I'm not certain there were tears, but I definitely exerted a meltdown expression. I felt they were responsible for the rising, and now I felt so lost. I said, "I want to go home. I don't want this anymore." There was a pit in my heart. So I'm laughing now because I've moved past it all, right? But I'm laughing now. There was a pit in my heart from my pain and that I couldn't make what they gave me work and was struggling with it. She said, "You agreed to this. This is the life of your plan. This is the plan of your life. You are with us, and this is the way it moves." She then began speaking directly to my issues. "You need to move on with your life. You will not get your friends back. A new life is emerging and you have to take advantage of it. Make a move. It's like your chess games." And she's sending me images, right? So she sends an image of a chessboard with a hand making a move. "Life is like a game. It has to get played by making moves. I can't tell you how to make moves. You have to learn yourself. Be like you were before you left. Make a move." She was right to describe my struggle this way. I had become emotionally paralyzed by what had occurred and didn't know what to do. But in the moment, I didn't see the answer with learning how to move on. I saw the only answer with knowing the truth behind the rising, that it was created from alien contact. I was fighting to resolve the pain in me, and the only answer was putting together my two worlds. But also, if you notice, she didn't answer why I couldn't know. So I pressed it. "But why can't I know?" She simply responded, "You have to go now. You can't stay here." I got emotional at the idea of going back to not knowing. Aboard these crafts was the only time my life made sense. I changed my intention to defiance. I said, "I don't want to leave. I don't want to go back to not knowing. I don't want it." Typically, while communicating with the elder, she telepathically enveloped me. So when you're staring at their eyes, they really do kind of like take over. And so making it difficult to actually see her face. You kind of get in this kind of trance, and they also communicate with a higher part of your consciousness. So you're kind of in this other state with them. But in this moment, in a split second, and in a very controlled manner, she shut herself off from me, retracting her energy. So she did this thing, and I could see her face in this crystal clarity, her chin, and simultaneously she projected an intense telepathic force that would be consistent with us yelling, and the words would be translated as "Get off the ship," all the while psychically slapping me with invisible force on my shoulder. I was so surprised, I yelled, "Ah," and raised my arms to protect myself, though there was no pain and I didn't get hurt. At the time, I'd never seen this part of her, and I got scared at the realization of how powerful she was, her ability to psychically slap me without lifting a finger. Presently, in hindsight, I know the solution I was suggesting had consequences that I couldn't comprehend at the time. I now see her, because we continue having a relationship, and she's not like that. So I do see her as a stern, tough, loving granny smacking me to get out because she's had enough of my illogical emotional weakness. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. My other life had been struggling, and I didn't know how to help him. I was lost and in pain and felt like I wasn't being heard. In my mind at the time, they had put me in this scenario. I trusted them, and now I felt like I was being used. Were these good or bad beings? I couldn't tell anymore. Regardless of how good it felt to be on their ships and in their presence, my mind was now disturbed with the reality of how this affected my life. So anyway, there's drama, gray alien and human drama. And I'd like to think of that stuff as kind of some of the more fascinating take of the dynamic that I believe will be part of the future, that these gray aliens will be here. And I don't know if it'll quite be like that, but But it's really how do they handle the emotions, vice versa. Like they had wisdom about things that they just couldn't say to me. They couldn't kind of communicate it, so I got confused by it all. And it's a very fascinating play on kind of the dynamic of human and gray alien psychology. The last reading I'll do is I want to do a piece of the Mystic book. This is a download that they gave me. They gave it to me at the age of 16, and it just sat there. And they really kind of said, this is for later. And then it's when the memories come out at the age of 26, in 2016, when she actually tells me to kind of, open up your memories and that you can write a book about it, that she says, there's this thing in you, and it's a mystic, it's this download. I didn't know these things. I didn't know these terms at the time, downloads and stuff. I didn't know that. So I didn't know what it was. And then it's part of the process of getting the memories out was actually, in fact, I got the download out first. Then the memories of the alien contact kind of just were happening as the download was coming out. So this is how the Mystic book starts. It's the end of the book. We are not the body. So it's a spiritual message addressed to humans, and kind of it's really for you to figure out what it means for yourself. This section of our message is addressed to the bodies who identify themselves as human beings. You think you are your body, but you are not. What you are is a perfect awareness housed within and throughout physical tissue body. The mind, which is part of your body, takes on the characteristics of your physical environment, the planet your body is from. Therefore, the mind will only take you so far in understanding universal truths. Yet who you really are is a quantum dimensional consciousness, experienced as pure being and pure feeling. It is your super awareness, aware of your super identity, your true identity. And this true identity has a long history of many manifestations and forms you would call lives. Your true individual histories span other places, other galaxies, other times, and other dimensions. Your true identity, while simultaneously manifesting in space and time, also resides in a dimensional place beyond space and time. Now your mind is not your brain, and your brain is not your mind. Your brain, though a tool for your use, creates chemical impulses, creating your experience of emotions, which can become impressions into your mind. This mind can be considered your spiritual mind or ethereal mind. This very biological experience of brain can complicate, trick, fool, or confuse your experience of your true identity as awareness or spirit here on Earth. And the brain is an organ known as the pineal gland. This pineal gland is a trigger point for awakening the dimensional spiritual component of your existence. When it is properly touched, it can become activated. This dimensional spiritual existence is hidden from you now because we, as in all beings in the universe, including yourself, grow the conscious universe by having you and all your other fellow humans forget. There are many places in your galaxy alone that are denser in reality like your Earth. This density, darkness, or illusion separation is like fertilizer for the living universe. Your identity as a quantum dimensional spiritual consciousness has its own ethereal body composed of light. This is what you are. Each individuation of the conscious universe has an ethereal body of some type. Each use the emanations from the world around it to create reality. The emanations of your world is dense matter, and this is what you use to create your reality. In your world, sometimes it is assumed your body is not part of your spirituality. We are here to tell you that it is imperative to keep your body healthy, as it is very much a part of your spiritual system. Be conscious of what you are eating and its effects on your body. Your food affects your disposition, your mind, your energy, and your magnetic field. Be in nature, as nature's negative ions are not just good for your body, but are needed for your body. Have plants in your care. Plants give and exchange healing energy and are good for your body. We cannot overemphasize how damaging stress is to your body. Learn to become aware of your subtle body sensations. Learn to feel where you hold stress and learn techniques to release it. Sit with a meditation practice. It is good for your internal and external energy cycles. Practices that focus on movement and flow, such as Tai Chi or movement meditation, strengthen your personal magnetic field. Attitudes of kindness and compassion expressed are great for the cells of your body. These are the ways to maintain the health of your body. We have created this body for you. Use it with good health. Okay. So that's it, everybody. I'm going to close it all down here. And you know where to buy the book, www.jeffselver.com. Let's just confirm that that's up and running. I want to make sure here. Yeah, it's up and running. Yeah. Yeah, it's there. So you can buy the book at jeffselver.com. It goes right to the Amazon link. And then from here, you can purchase it. and it is published per purchase. So every time you buy it, the Amazon plant spends a week or so making it, and then they fire it off, and it's about 2 weeks of time for most people.